mattina mi son svegliato.
Durante le ultime ore la situazione è peggiorata e le strade sono sempre più piene di protestanti, la maggior parte degli studenti universitari. Questi rivolti in molte parti del mondo, come Parigi e Roma. La polizia ha fisso di faccia a faccia che i manifestanti usando armi arti sono messa e raccomandare i turisti di non lasciare le loro alberghi.
Poor art from the Italian Arte povera is an artistic movement that emerged in Italy in the second half of the 1960s, to which authors from the predominantly Turin area adhered. It was named after Germanos the land, because humble and poor materials, generally non-industrial like plants, canvas sacks, fats, ropes, earth, and trunks, are used for its creation. It was a trend that became known at the end of the 1960s, whose creators used materials considered poor, very easily to obtain, such as wood, leaves or rocks, crockery, lead, or crystal plates, vegetables, fabrics, charcoal or clay, or also waste materials and therefore had no value. These materials were valued mainly in their changes, because as they deteriorate, they transform the work. The artists linked to povera advocate dismantling the hierarchy of materials, rejected consumerism, and were interested in the forces of nature and industrial modernity. They didn't form a collective, but all used art as a starting point to approach life. They charged their materials with association to the history of culture and mythology in Italy and Europe, reflecting the present through the past. They exercise a poetic critique of modern civilization. Why was it called Arte povera? Poor art. Why? First, poor art was a reaction to rich art, a product of scientific imagination and high technology, minimal, pop, cybernetic, program, etc. Second, it was made with poor, banal, insignificant materials, primary, unprivileged elements, such as wood, clothes, rags, stones, leather, metal, water, earth, fire, vegetables, minerals. Generally speaking, those who made this type of art eliminated the distinction between art and life. They linked their works to everyday events on a journey into the authentic, true world. They stood at the nature-culture boundary. The movement sought to challenge the perception of the groundwork of art as a revered object and instead made use of everyday and found materials, such as paper and ballpoint pens, earth branches, rocks and cloth. Through a partial rejection of the conventional fine art materials like oil paint, marble, and precious metals, the participants questioned the role of the artist in reflecting the social and economic challenges in the post-war Italy. There was no manifesto drawn up for the Arte povera. One of the key factors of the movement was a rejection of the rules and pre-existing structures more rigidly adhered by their European preceders, such as the Futurists, Surrealists, and Constructivists, who all committed their creative philosophies to paper in a published manifesto. Neo-Arte povera. This is what neo-conceptual or post-conceptual artists of the 90s do, without forgetting, of course, that the creators of Arte povera of the 70s are still active, better than ever. For example, Cornelis works with coffee sacks, Anselmo with stones and compasses. This year, he won the Venice Biennale. Gilberto Sorio is using very aggressive objects, spearheads, communicating vessels, test tubes. The great European artists work with Arte povera materials. They make a sublimation of those rough industrial materials. Now there is a kind of inversion of values. Simple objects of daily life are sublimated with very novel materials in extravagant dimensions, and intimate elements of daily life can be remade into a marvel. And no, this is not pop art. I'm going to list the most important artists and their works. Mario Merz, Object Cacciatoire. Algerio Boetti, Mapa. Michelangelo Pistoletto, Mappamondo. Giuseppe Bennone, Espacio di Luce. Giannis Conilis, Untitled. Giuseppe Bennone, Sophia Say. Giovanni Anselmo, Untitled. Arte povera in Mexico. In January 2060, artist Giannis Conilis visited Mexico to intervene a space at the Museum Espacio para las Culturas y el Arte Meca, in the state of Aguascalientes. For his work at Meca, the Greek artist said he wished to give the objects in that space a life of their own, and a history, as well as to pose a throwback to the values we have lost as artists to humanity. Another artist who visited our country was Michelangelo Pistoletto, who was in Monterrey. In the Fundidora Park, he creates his sculpture called Terzo Paradiso, which was made of bricks to allude to a balance between nature and technology. A thought about this artist is that a beautiful work of art is not important for them. Indeed, they believe that what is worth it in a work of art is the intellectual process and the way of thinking that permit to create it, thus it seems to be a statement in favor of an artistic progression, which can explain that an observer can be totally lost in front of a work he does not know anything about it, whereas another one can understand it and get the poetry. Even though it's hard to access and preserve the Arte povera, cultural institutions, galleries, and collectors are more and more interested in this movement. Thus, according to ArtPrice, among the most popular artists of the movement, 5 have already sold works for more than $1 million. Piero Manzoni, Algiero Boetti, Michelangelo Pistoletto, Mario Merz, and Giannis Conilis. 7 of other artists are considered as members of the movement: Giovanni Anselmo, Pier Paolo Calzolari, Luciano Fabro, Marisa Merz, Piano Pascali, Giulio Paolini, and Gilberto Sorio.